Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 9th day of January. Breaking news here today. I didn't expect that. Mike Vrabel fired from the Tennessee Titans. I'll talk about that after the break here. Thoughts on the national championship. Give a good scope, bad scope. Talk a little bit about the NFL this past weekend and more. So stand by. When I come back, make a couple quick announcements about some upcoming guests. Then we'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay, now a couple of quick announcements. Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow, I'll have Ken Norris back on the program. He's wanting to talk a little college football, get his thoughts on the national championship game, the Alabama game, plus get his thoughts on so many players opting out of the bowl games and whatnot. Ken Norris will be on tomorrow, 30 minutes past the hour. Now, Thursday, Mike Richman, author Mike Richman from the D.C. area, well known. I've had him on before talking about his book, discussing. He is a Washington Commander, Washington Redskin historian. We know that Ron Rivera was fired also on Sunday. Listen, they've got the most money now, according to these cap websites, salary cap websites. They've got the most money, followed by the Tennessee Titans. Plus, the Commanders have the number 2 overall pick. They're hiring Bob Myers, the former NBA executive general manager of the Golden State Warriors. So, going to get his thoughts on Thursday. And, of course, Friday we'll have Carlos, Mad New Yorker, Chavez in. So, got a full week of slate. Next Tuesday, Rich Ferris will be returning to the program, get his thoughts. It'll be a week into the new coaching search by then. He'll be on, get his thoughts on, he's from the Titans flagship, to talk about the Mike Vrabel hiring and where the team will be this time next week. Had a very busy schedule. Plus, I had a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about tonight. Long-winded show. Didn't really want to bring any guests on tonight. Okay. Since I'm out of Nashville, we'll talk about the national championship here in just a little bit. All right. I did not expect, again, I was aware that Vrabel was being talked about as a possible trade commodity for the Titans. That was with the New England Patriots. That never come to fruition. Listen, Monday happened. Nothing happened. Black Monday coming past. I figured that the Titans were looking towards the future with Vrabel and Ron Carthon and whatnot. This team has the second most. They're only $1 million short. They have the second most cap space. They are 7th, and they have the 7th overall pick next year. They got some pieces there. Marcus Spears at running back. Will Levis, a possible quarterback to build out from under, and Peter Sonorski. So they've got some pieces in play. They've made some pretty good plays last year in free agency. Defensively, they did. wasn't in love with the Andre Dillard, which, I had Rich Ferris on here, and he said that was Mike Vrabel's idea to bring in the left tackle here. He's been a total disappointment at that position. So coming up to today, around lunchtime, the Titans suddenly fire Mike Vrabel after myself included an impression, again, that Vrabel would be safe because he made it through yesterday. No news that he was fired. Listen. And so I got this off of the Athletic here from Diana Rossini from the Athletic here. This was an article clipped about Mike Vrabel Sunday's 28 to 20 upset of the Jacksonville Jaguars left Vrabel Titans. They were 6-11, left him with 18 losses in 24 games. His tenure. Vrabel was 56-48 overall, 2-3 in the postseason. The offense had dried up. He made some poor staff hires. What this article says, injury issues have been consistently excessive for 3 seasons. He doesn't get a complete pass on personnel gaffes over recent years. Also, he projects the smartest guy in the room syndrome in public at times, and some people don't like that, but firing him Strunk has gone back on both sides. Okay, so that was from the Athletic here. I'll say this. If you just read the national media here, they're pounding this woman in the ground. And after hearing her, I've got some audio of her talking with Mike Keefe. He's the voice of the Tennessee Titans. She answers some crucial questions about this. Listen, I've said this myself. I've had some of the critics come on about Vrabel. The Titans offense was 30th in the National Football League last year. Okay. They had Todd Downing. They fired Todd Downing, the offensive coordinator. Remember, he got the DUI and said the big lie after the Green Bay game, went on a big losing streak after that. But the offense was 30th in the NFL last year. Okay. So you think they're going to, I'm pretty sure Amy talked to Vrabel. Hey, listen, we got to do something about this offense. It's vanilla. I understand you got offensive line issues and everything, but probably want to address this issue. This is a big weak spot for the team. Well, you think he goes outside the organization and does this big search for a coordinator or somebody's quarterback coach around the league? No, he hires in-house. He's been there 6 years. That's all he does. That's all he did. He hires somebody in-house. Very stubborn. Did not want to work with anybody outside the house. Well, you need some new type of vision. That's a typical thing of a defensive-minded head coach. You see that a lot here. Look at Mike Tomlin, same thing. So, anyways, yeah, he hired – they got rid of Matt Canada. You think they went outside? No, they went and just brought in Joe Brady. He was an in-house guy, okay? So, I can kind of see where the frustration will lie. From 2018 to 21, Vrabel under the Titans had a 41-24 record. The last 2 years is 13-21. Okay. So you got to look at it from that perspective. All right. So yeah. And I know he won Coach of the Year. They won the South twice. I thought eventually they would get the line squared away. And I hadn't lost faith in the guy. But I'm just giving you everything. So here is a long bite. I will pause this and comment. This is Mike Keefe, the radio, the play-by-play man since they've been the Titans, since they've been called the Titans since 1999, and even a few years before that. This is the guy asking Amy Adams Strunk, the owner, why does she do what she do today and firing Mike Vrabel here? So listen up.
It's a very difficult decision, and Mike was our head coach for 6 seasons, and he brought a lot of passion every day to work, to players, to staff, to the organization. And I will always appreciate what Mike brought and wish the best for Mike and his family.
Can you tell us the reason or reasons that you decided to make this change?
the last 2 seasons have been very disappointing. And the fans felt it. I felt it. We made changes last year, and I came to believe we need.
Listen, she said they made changes last year. Yeah, they made changes. Okay. She fired John Robertson. He got very erratic at the end. The general manager taking all these injury, high risk, injury, high character guys in the first round, high character issue players in the first round over the last couple of years. But also, she mentions the last 2 years we tried to make personnel changes. She was talking about Todd Downing, the offensive coordinator. I mean, they were 30th. They were 30th in pro. You say, well, why? Well, they had injuries. Well, look at the Cleveland Browns. They had injuries too. Now they're in the playoffs here, okay? They're still moving the ball downfield. She's seeing what a lot of these other owners are seeing, and myself included, that these defensive-minded head coaches, they're very mule-headed. They do not like to get things too far out of. They're especially the older ones, are less reluctant to make changes on the offensive side of the ball. They do not want to spend a lot of money on the offensive side. Well, you have to in 2024, 2023, or you will get left behind. Again, the last 4 Super Bowl teams that were in the Super Bowl, forget about the winners, in the Super Bowl had offensive-minded head coaches. You can still win with a defensive-minded head coach, but you need an all-world quarterback, and you need a well above offensive line to do so. So listen up. Here's more.
We needed to make a change to the coaching staff.
People want to know, when did you come to this decision?
It wasn't a last night or a month ago or whenever. It's just kind of been all season watching, and it was difficult, but I thought it was time to make that change.
There's been discussion in a lot of different circles about the possibility of trading the head coach. Was consideration given to trading Mike Vrabel?
Well, yes, there was, but there's a bit of misconception about a coach's contract, say, versus a player's contract. A coach's contract, you can't trade them unless they're a willing partner to that trade. So, yes, we thought about it, but at the end of the day, with league rules the way they are, it would have maybe put us back 3 weeks. And you know, honestly, to get the right head coach, I was just not willing to go to the back of the line.
Yes, okay. The trade situation, all right? Now, that situation and rumors all revolved around the New England Patriots, okay? The Patriots still have Bill Belichick. Kraft has not made he hasn't stepped down. Robert Kraft hasn't fired Bill Belichick. So again, if you don't hear it from the horse's mouth, you assume that this lady's an idiot and she don't know what. Well, who you gonna trade him to? Who else you gonna trade him to? You don't start calling around, and like she said, well, he don't have to agree to go to the Carolina Panthers and coach under David Tepper. You know, when we've had this happen before in the past, whether it be Jon Gruden getting traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he wanted to go coach the Buccaneers. He knew they were a ready-made team, okay? And they gave proper compensation for and draft capital for Jon Gruden. Same thing with Herm Edwards. He was traded from the Jets to the Chiefs, and ultimately Bill Belichick was traded from the Jets to the New England Patriots. But again, the only rumors that surrounded the trade was with New England. And, of course, New England, as of today, as of yesterday, all the way up to the program, Bill Belichick's still the coach. So what's she going to do? Just sit around and call a bunch of teams and fall? So I understand why she did what she did. That all makes sense.
And take a chance of missing out on someone we really wanted.
All right, so I'm going to put 2 questions together. Will the new head coach report to Rand Carthon or to you? And who will have control of the 53-man roster?
Today is about the coaching staff. I'm not quite ready to answer that question. I still have some things to work through, but I will answer both those questions at the end of the process.
So when it's done, you'll make this clear publicly who the head coach reports to and who has control of the roster.
Absolutely. Like it was a big.
Well, I hope that that's Ran Carthon. You know, I hope that she does that. Again, the Titans, 28th in offense last year. They spent a lot of money, went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. They spent draft capital. They drafted Tyjae Spears. They drafted a new quarterback. They drafted Peter Sonorski. They added Brunskill at guard. They have added Dillard, which supposedly he was Mike Vrabel's idea. So you add all these pieces, and you're just 2 spots better offensively. Okay, so I can kind of understand where she's coming from. You know, I don't think this person, people will say she in over her head. Well, but when you hear it from her perspective and you look at where the team has been going the last few years, you look at the fact he's not want to go outside the organization to make changes. We don't know how much he butted heads with the general manager on personnel and whatnot. My guess is he probably wanted to go more defense, and Carthon said, no, we need to go offense here. This team is getting killed here. That we'll never know. That we'll never know. So when you hear it all the way from the horse's mouth and you look at the actual data of what the team's been through, kind of get an understanding, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's someone who is not resting on their laurels. She's making a move. So I totally get once you read everything and look at it, you say, hey, listen, this guy's hard-headed. You know, that's the reason why the Texans did what they did last year with Lovie Smith. He didn't want to fire any of his assistants, you know, and now look at him. Now look at what the Texans have done here. So, and of course, people want to say smart stuff like this, pay for the stadium and all that crap. You know, I don't know. Just don't vote for that stuff. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm just kind of give you an understanding of why something happened the way it did. Okay, for example, look back last year, 1 year ago today, give or take about a week. Look back last year, all right? Now, the Houston Texans have won the AFC South, and you've got guys like Stephen A. Smith calling them racist because they fired Lovie Smith. Even though they fired a black guy, they hired him over another black guy, which was can't remember the guy. He's a former special teams coach out of Baltimore. Okay, so then they fired Lovie Smith because Lovie Smith didn't want to make changes on his staff here. Now you look at the Houston Texans. They beat Indianapolis, which eventually led to, after Tennessee Sunday, beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now they have, they have won the division. They went from 1 year ago to having the number 1 overall pick. Remember, they had the number 1 overall pick for weeks leading in. We're talking 22 now, not 23. They had the number 1 pick overall for weeks leading up to the very last game of the season. And then they played the Colts last year at the end of the season, just like they did this year. Lovie Smith goes for 2. Then they fall to number 2, right? And the Bears end up getting the number 1 pick and later traded it to the Carolina Panthers. Okay? So now you look at the narrative. They've had 3 coaches in 3 years, with the son now being the controlling owner. With Mr. McNair died a few years back before that. It's one of the most dysfunctional organizations in America, you see people like Stephen A. Smith dogging them out. I had my share of criticisms of the Texans last year. Remember they had Deshaun Watson wanted out a year before that. They had the Bill O'Brien debacle there where he was a general manager and everything. 3 coaches in 3 years. It was a total train wreck, you know. So you fast forward it through to the draft, through the hiring processes. They hire a former Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans. They get a good offensive coordinator, Billy Slowick. And then they hit a home run with C.J. Stroud with the number 2 pick overall. They traded this year's first-round pick and got Alabama's Will Anderson. And now Will Anderson may be the defensive rookie of the year. And Stroud, if it wasn't for his concussion being out 2 games, he would have been rookie of the year, okay? So now they've got their franchise quarterback. They seem to have the right coach to coach him, and they've won the division. So what a difference 1 year makes. Note, the Detroit Lions and Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs because they've got the right coach and right quarterback. So if you're Titans fans and you look at some of these other organizations who have been total train wrecks, Detroit, Cleveland, Houston, there is hope if you get the right coach and you get the right quarterback back. So it just goes to show you, going back to today's notes here, there is hope out there. It's hope in the draft, and it's hope when you make changes at the head coaching position here. So people ask me, well, what should they do? What should they do? As I've been saying here for the past this whole season, as I've been saying here for this past whole season here, is you want to lean offensive minded, because I mean that is just where the league is going at this point. I mean, you can still win with the defense, but you need an all-world quarterback to do so. You know, you look at the Dolphins; they're first in total offense. Tua's a limited quarterback athletically and arm strength. Miami's made the playoffs the last 2 years in a row, despite multiple, unlike the Titans, and despite multiple offensive line injuries and quarterback injuries. They had some guy named Skylar Thompson winning games for them last year, if you guys recall. Okay? So you want to look at somebody like him, and this would be you want to look at somebody like a oh God, what's this guy's name here? Frank White. Make sure I got this name right here because I got ahead of myself here. You got Slowick here. Frank Smith, excuse me. Frank Smith, 42 years old, been with the Dolphins last few years. Somebody like that. He's their offensive coordinator. He would be one of the guys that I would bring in and interview for this job, okay? Use that zone blocking running scheme. Use similar type of offense that they have, all right? Same thing, say, for instance, if you did, because they've got a Ran Carthon who comes out of San Francisco, would you look at a young 36-year-old Billy Slowick from Houston, who's done a really good job with C.J. Stroud? Now, the only way I would do that, per se, is like Sean McVay did in when he first got the job with the Rams, okay? He went out and got a Wade Phillips here as a defensive coordinator, guys in his late 60s, early 70s, to run the defense the first few years, help get his feet wet as a head coach here. Say, for instance, so if you got a 36-year-old Billy Slowick from Houston that is very young, but, you know, very promising young coach here, you want to bring in a veteran defensive, a former head coach to run your defense, somebody like I'm using him for example, like a Ron Rivera. You want a guy that is got some older vets around him to help him learn the basis here, to help him learn the ropes here, and let this guy work with the quarterback and figure out the offensive side of things. And on the other side of the ball, special teams, defense, you want to go vet there. Surround yourself with people who know something that you do not know. That's why one of the reasons why Sean McVay has been so successful with the Rams at such a young age. He was not insecure enough not to surround himself with older coaches who knew stuff that he did not know. That's why he's got a Super Bowl ring at this current time. So somebody like Houston's Bobby Slowick, somebody like the offensive coordinator from the offensive coordinator from the Miami Dolphins here. I just mentioned him. And also, listen, Todd Monken with the Ravens, the offensive coordinator here. Listen, Lamar Jackson, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 16 games. Remember, he didn't play last week because they've already so far ahead. Ravens 6th in total offense, most starters rested in the last game. Still played really well. Now, Monken is 57. Now Todd Monken, now at that age, you think, well, what if Todd Monken is just a coordinator material? Maybe he's not head coaching material. That's what you find out in the interview process. Is this guy really head coaching material, Monken? Or maybe he's just got a bunch of bad breaks. Maybe he is head coaching material. Okay. He's also worked with Stetson Bennett, 2 national championships there with the Georgia Bulldogs. This guy was a walk-on. He was a walk-on. Ended up getting drafted in the 4th round. You look at Lamar Jackson, very hard time passing the ball. Love the way this guy schemed up plays for Lamar Jackson in this receiving core here. Guys looking wide open. Monken would be one of my few earliest that I would want to talk to help run this organization here. So they're all from the defensive side of the ball. And, of course, obviously a wild card will be Jim Harbaugh. You think Mike Vrabel's a strong personality. Jim Harbaugh's he's fresh off on a national championship. He's coached in the NFL before, went to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. He would be really good. Helping out with the draft his first 4 or 5 years. But that's the problem with Harbaugh. He'll probably be there no matter where he goes in the NFL, just 4 or 5 years, because he runs hot everywhere he goes. That being said, who's to say you might not get to the Super Bowl, if not win it, win that short period of time, and then in 4 or 5 years you're looking for a new coach again. But hey, listen, if you've got your stadium here, that would look good there. That will look good here to help you out, get the team to the Super Bowl in the new stadium or whatnot. A guy like Jim Harbaugh could do something like that. Now, that's a $15 million a year plus price tag. I tell you what, if she did think big and then she did go after Harbaugh and she did sign a Harbaugh, these fans would forget about Mike Vrabel in about 2 seconds flat. They would forget all about Vrabel. I know a lot of people frustrated with her firing Vrabel, but if she went in and got a guy like a Jim Harbaugh here, that will set this city on fire here. I do not think he'll go here. I think he's going to look around. He'll probably look at that LA Charger job. I've heard talks of the Raiders. I wouldn't want to go to the Raiders and coach a guy like Aiden O'Connell with the Raiders. They don't have a high enough draft pick. They don't seem to have a lot of money in cap room. I guess you can make it, but I just could not see it. I would not take that if I'm Jim Harbaugh. And obviously, another wild card would be Ben Johnson from Detroit here. He's he's the hottest commodity that's being talked about as far as actual coordinators right now. Ben Johnson, the finalist, actually offered the job with the Carolina Panthers last year, turned it down. Now the Carolina Panthers trying to go after him again. David Tepper throwing drinks on fans and stuff, getting fined $300,000 by the league there. If he does that in public, how do you think Tepper is in private? There's no way that I would take that job if I'm Ben Johnson. But if she gets one of those type of names, a Ben Johnson from Detroit, a Todd Monken from Baltimore, for God's sake, a Jim Harbaugh, Billy Slowick would be a big one because that's the connection with Ron Carthon here. But if she gets one of those younger, so Frank Smith out of Miami, those 42 and younger crowd, you want to get a vet defensive coordinator and special teams coach to help you out around him. Now, of course, if you get Jim, you kind of let him do whatever he wants here. I think Jim would be a nice fit here in Nashville, but I don't know if she would want to go that route, So those are the ones that we'll look for. I'll tell you what. Did you notice I didn't say any defensive minded? If she gets a Dan Quinn, somebody like that, if she goes out and get a Brian Flores, I know Flores did a really good job with Minnesota defense. I would totally rip this team for that. If they went defensive after going offensive, I would totally rip for that because you just got rid of a defensive-minded head coach here. You want to go opposite of what you had if you want to really implement some type of change. Okay? All righty then. Whew, man, that's a mouthful. Had to give me a couple swigs of water there. And then, like I said, again, during this whole time, Vrabel never went outside the organization, replacing defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. If he did, I didn't notice it. So you kind of want some flexibility here, okay? All righty then. I know it was a mouthful, but I'm out of Nashville. And I know that a lot of people wanted to hear about that story. Caught me off guard. It really did. Caught me off guard. Did not see that one coming here. Okay. All right. Now, so really good game on Sunday night. Really good. Actually, you know what? Let me go to the college. Let's go, since we were talking about Jim Harbaugh. Last night's game. Okay. Michigan looked like the better team. First 2 drives in, quick touchdowns. This felt like this was going to be Notre Dame and Alabama back in, was it 2011, 2012, for Brett Musburger. I think he's like, if this were a fight, we would call it by now. Okay. We would have called it. Then Washington, they kind of gets their footing. They settle down. It's like 14-3, and it keeps you watching for a little bit longer. It got 25 million people watch this national championship game. So I went on and watched it. But, we all know what happened here. Michigan goes on and wins the national championship. Jim Harbaugh finally wins a national championship, Last year he beat TCU. The year before that, he lost to TCU. The year before that, he lost to Georgia. As an NFL coach, he lost the Super Bowl. So it kind of that the seed with Jim Harbaugh was that the school of thought with Jim, not John, with Jim, that he can't win the big one, and that was a correct criticism here. Okay, remember they got to the NFC Championship, got beat. Remember the Giants put them out. when he was with Alex Smith. So they get Colin Kaepernick, a little bit better athlete at quarterback. Then they go on and get to the Super Bowl. He runs hot with the general manager there. They butt heads, goes to Michigan. Remember when he goes to Michigan, first 5 years, folks, he couldn't beat Urban Meyer, could not beat Ohio State. Thought he might have plateaued at around 2019, something like that. And then Urban Meyer has his issues, and then he steps down. And then they kind of hit a low point in the 2020 year. Gets into some NCAA trouble with the COVID stuff there. Then you got Ron Day bragging about how bad they beat up on Michigan and yada yada yada, scoring 60-something points. He has to sit down with the athletic director. They cut his salary up a little bit. He's forced to fire some people. So sometimes it's good for a coach to be held accountable, right? So he fires some people. Then we know what happened the next year. They finally beat Ohio State in the snow, ran the ball over them, only to lose to Georgia in the playoff that year. And then the next year, they run the table again. They go to Ohio State and beat them again by 21 points. Okay. Go to Ohio State, beat them again. Then they get into the playoff, and I mentioned lose to TCU. Thought they got a little pass happy in that game. And then, of course, this year, we know what happened. He finally gets over the hump. So he goes on and finally wins a national championship, beats Ohio State 3 times. They go 15-0, wins a national championship in his 8th year. So you can't say he's an overrated coach who can't win the big one, you know? So now at 15-0, the guy's a hot commodity. I don't know what he's going to do. I know one thing. When he was asked about it, he said, well, let me celebrate this at first. We also know that Harbaugh has hired an agent. Tom Brady's, I don't know if this guy's still Don Yee or whatever his name is. I don't know if he's still working with Tom Brady or not, but this is an NFL agent. I do think he's going to look at some of these jobs because he's tired of all this NIL transfer portal stuff here. They're going to lose McCarthy, probably going to go to the NFL. Blake Corum came back. He came back this year, so he's definitely going to go to the NFL. Got a lot of defensive players that's going to go. We'll see. Now, he could stay and still get another suspension. There is a possibility for the whatever you call it, Spygate, his version of the Spygate, stealing signals and sending somebody, taking pictures of signals or whatever. But I don't know, with all these openings here in the NFL, when you've got Atlanta being open, you've got the Commanders again. The Commanders here, they got the most money in the NFL. They got the most cap room by $1 million over Tennessee. They're like $78 million in cap space. Tennessee's like $77 million in cap space. They got the number 2 overall pick. They can get Drake May or maybe Penix or whoever you think, maybe Jalen Daniels or somebody, or maybe even get Caleb Williams. Maybe he falls to the 2nd pick overall. So I didn't realize that they were in that good a shape here. Okay. Number 2 overall pick, got all that money, got a new owner, a very aggressive owner, trying to think big. So that may be an attractive job to him. That very well may be an attractive job. Here's a little bit of his resume here. Okay. Somebody put this out on the Twitter X account. Led the University of San Diego to consecutive 11-1 seasons. That was before he went to Stanford. Turned around Stanford's football program. He went 12-1, won the Orange Bowl. Remember, he had Andrew Luck. He recruited him out of high school and developed Andrew Luck there with Stanford. They were like 40-something point underdogs against a powerhouse USC team. They beat USC. I can't believe it. That was back when USC was winning national championships with Pete Carroll. And then, of course, achieved a 44-19 one-tie record as the 49ers head coach. 3 NFC title games and a Super Bowl appearance. 3 straight playoff appearances and a national championship. And he's got over $125 million contract, for what I understand, on the table there to stay with Michigan. So the iron's pretty hot right now. The iron's pretty hot. We'll see how this thing plays out. We'll see how it plays out. His stock is not going to be higher than it is right now. Is he going to be a Pete Carroll? Is he going to be a Jimmy Johnson? I think so. I think there's a very good possibility. He likes these new challenges. This is the first national championship undisputed since 1948 for Michigan. Where they shared a championship in 1997. I want to say they shared with Nebraska that year, but they had the Charles Woodson, the controversial Heisman that he won over Peyton Manning. But hey, he played with Lloyd Carr being the head coach here. So he is the man. It was really funny about Harbaugh. I don't know if anybody saw this in the game last night. They showed a scene in pregame. And Jim Harbaugh the game hadn't started yet. He's in full game mode. He's got his hands on his knees, standing on the sideline here, looking down, totally stressed out, I guess he's trying to clear his head before the game starts here. Got a full headset on. Again, the game hadn't started yet. Nothing's going on. It looks like he's in full game mode, right? And then John, his brother, this is in Houston where the national championship's taking place, walks up beside him, and kind of pats him on his shoulder, and he looks up, "Hey, how's it going, man?" and kind of startles him, and he sees his brother, shakes his hand, and gives him a hug there. That was a pretty cool little moment. It kind of helped him relax just for a minute. He's one intense SOB here, that Jim Harbaugh here. So, yeah, his brother got a chance to get to see him win, and his parents are still alive, finally win a national championship so he can measure up to his brother here, who's won a Super Bowl. Remember, they played each other in the Super Bowl back in 2012 and 2013. But hey, listen, we'll see how this thing plays out. Okay. All right. Now, switching gears back to the pro game. Switching gears back to the program. Well, let's go back to the other biggest game of the week, and I thought it was Dolphins and Bills. I picked the Bills to win. Carlos, he picked the Dolphins here. And quite frankly, I thought the Dolphins were going to win this game. I thought Buffalo on Sunday night looked like too much hero ball out of Josh Allen. Early on, got away from running the ball. Allen trying to play hero ball and almost cost him the game. 2 interceptions there and a fumble. But he never lost his composure, and neither did the team. Plus, hey, all those Buffalo Bill fans down there, man. But, listen, the Bills, they got a big road win despite Allen's hero ball, passes, forcing bad passes in the first half, a careless fumble, second total, 3 turnovers. Of course, Tua had 2 interceptions himself, but I still got to credit the grit of Allen. Bills were down 14-7 on the road. The start of the fourth quarter, I didn't realize that a few weeks ago they signed Leonard Fournette off the street. That was a big addition. Joe Brady, the interim, remember this? Joe Brady, the interim offensive coordinator, took over for Ken Dorsey's fire mid-season. The whole offensive line has played together all season long. That's a huge plus for Buffalo, and it showed in the biggest moments on Sunday night. Big wins. Listen, Bills get the number 2 seed. Will host Pittsburgh Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern game. Bills will not get to the Super Bowl playing hero ball, not using the underneath game with James Cook and Leonard Fournette, who Fournette, remember, he's got experience playing with Brady, playing that underneath game with Brady going back to the 2020 season where they won the Super Bowl with that Tampa Bay team. You hope that they get back into that, because if they play that way against Pittsburgh, they can lose. They definitely won't beat this Baltimore team playing that way. Playing Josh Allen, you just play the hero ball, Hercules, run through multiple tackles. No, use James Cook, use that underneath game. I do like the fact that they was using Dalton Kincaid, the rookie tight end first-round pick. Use him. Sherfield, who used to play with the Dolphins, that Shakir guy, that other receiver here, using those receivers around Diggs. I know Gabe Davis has been a no-show this year, but, if it wasn't for guys like Xavier Howard and Bradley Chubb being out, they probably do beat the Buffalo Bills, And again, that's another defensive-minded head coach, but he's got an all-world talent there at quarterback who is saving Sean McDermott. And again, they're playing like they always do the past 3 years at this time of year. They'll try to run the ball early in the season, whether it be with Devin Singletary, who's shining really well right now with Houston, okay, or James Cook, the second-year player. They'll try to do that early. That doesn't work. Then they'll go back to, Josh, you saved the day. You make the big run. You make the throws out. Well, that we know how that story ends. That story ends by losing a shootout to Kansas City or playing a very good Cincinnati defense who was disciplined like they were last year and totally had Josh Allen and that offense totally out of sorts, only scoring 10 points at home, getting beat by Cincinnati 27-10, totally humiliated when Cincinnati's on their way to the Super Bowl. So that's something, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. So you hope that they look and say, listen, yeah, we got away with one here. We were down going into the fourth quarter. We needed a special teams touchdown here to really set us up here. And, of course, hero ball by Josh Allen at the end, despite his turnovers. That's not going to work out like that every week. You can't even beat Kansas City playing that well. They had a good game plan against Kansas City and beat them. But if he plays the way he did Sunday night up there in Kansas City, it's going to look like the Kansas City Bills game that's been in the playoffs for the last 2 or 3 years, where Kansas City comes out victorious and the Bills go home again. So, again, if the Bills, which they could, if they get put out in the divisional round, I think that they should also look for another head coach. I really do. Vic Fangio was right. He That's the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. The guy does look like he does look like John Elway on steroids. Okay, and John Elway, once they got rid of Dan Reeves, they put a solid running game in there with Mike Shanahan. 2 Super Bowls later, you got 2 rings from him and the city of Denver, and it's good that you see a talent like that get ahead. So there's still time left, Buffalo. Try not to make the same mistake over. Take care of business this week. Make sure, don't forget to run the ball against the Steelers. You should handle them easy. You're 9.5-point favorite stuff. But Steelers have beat them when they've been 10-point favorites before, so don't be surprised if that don't happen, folks. Okay? Okay, good scope, bad scope. Where I was right, where I was wrong this week. Good scope, where I had this right. AFC North could be the best division in the NFL. I said that in the offseason, talking about the improvement of the defense of the Cleveland Browns in the offseason, making new additions to their staff, and, of course, Deshaun Watson coming back. And we talked about Cincinnati. We knew that the Ravens have added new pieces to their offense. They end up being the best team in the division. Cincinnati looked great until, of course, Burrow went down. But guess what? The AFC North, everybody had a winning record. It turned out to be the best record. 3 of the 4 teams are in the playoffs here. And, of course, the lowly Cincinnati Bengals were 9-8. So, yeah, I was right about that. Saw that coming around March of last year when the new hires and the new situation, everything was being dealt out as far as personnel and coaching in the AFC North. Bad. Okay, Atlanta with the league's easiest schedule coming in would somehow make the playoffs. I thought they'd be about 7-10 with the 32nd ranked schedule, ridiculously easy. Instead, they were 7-10, not 10-7, 7-10. Now Arthur Smith has been fired. Wrong about Atlanta. Can't really get Atlanta right. That's a pretty good job, too. You've got the offensive line. You've got skilled players. You got a fair defense. Maybe you need another pass rusher, probably a younger tackle to take over for Calais Campbell, who's about 100 years old in football. But left tackle, you got the line there. You got the 10th pick. You're a quarterback away in a fairly easy division there. But, yeah, I thought Atlanta would make the playoffs, and they didn't. Okay, good scope. Picking Dallas to win the NFC East and not the Eagles. Listen, 19 straight years, a different team has won the NFC East. This year, the 19th, is no different. The Eagles won it last year. The Cowboys have won the NFC East this year. Cowboys are number 2 seed. The Eagles drop down to 5 seed. And do not be surprised if they don't lose to Tampa. Don't be surprised if there's a lot of changes made on the Eagles staff. Maybe Sirianni survives this year, but this time next year, if they play this bad with all these great players, don't be surprised 2 years removed from a Super Bowl that the Eagles won't move on again from their head coach. Dallas wins the NFC East. A lot of people said that would not happen. I was not one of those people. Dallas did win it at the end. Didn't win the way I thought they would win it, but they ended up winning it, and the Eagles lost it. Okay? All right. Let's see. Good scope. Geno Smith, likely a one-year wonder. I said that back around Thanksgiving, that they're going to be one of the teams out looking for another quarterback. Knew they shouldn't have gave him that money. It's still a very team-friendly deal. They have a better team on paper, Seattle, than they did last year, man. I mean, they got Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith-Njigba. They got another running back, and they had the worst record. You know. Lost at home to a Pittsburgh team with a backup quarterback there. They come up short, and Pete Carroll's staying. So they'll definitely be looking for a quarterback through the draft, through acquire. Maybe they work out something with Russell Wilson and bring him back for a team discount. I don't know. But they're not going to stay with Geno Smith. They're going to stay status quo. I'll tell you that, especially after missing the playoffs last year when they made it the year before that. So keep an eye on Seattle here, and we'll see how this thing goes about. Okay. So that's it in essentially a nutshell for the good scope and the bad scope here. Now tomorrow I have Ken Norris in. He's got a rant. He don't understand why these teams in college, and he's made a good point. If you opt out of your bowl game, some guys are opting out of playoff game. I mean, why is that considered meaningless? He's got a beef with that about the players here. If you try not to get hurt, it seems like you get hurt. If you play with the mentality is, I'm here to play, finish my job, keep your head on a swivel. Usually those type of players don't get hurt. It's the guys who are trying to dip out on practice. I notice more people are getting hurt when they're practicing less here. Look at all the soft tissue injuries we've had. So he's got a little bit of a beef about that. I'll ask him, what does he think about that? What he think about the college football playoff and where we're at. He'll be on tomorrow. And again, on Thursday, Mike Richmond, which I'm curious to see. Mike loves to emphasize he's not a reporter. He said, I said, I know you're not a reporter. I'm just getting your opinion, man. Because I remember you said you wanted to come on the program when and if Ron Rivera be fired. Of course, he was fired on Sunday. And now, they've got the most money, and they've got the number 2 pick. A lot of good skilled players there. Pickles, like you said, probably need help on their offensive line as well. Maybe not as bad as a Tennessee or New York Jets type of situation, but they're going to need some help as well. Got a new owner, got a new attitude up there, and I'm going to see what he thinks about where this organization's going in 2024 here with the Commanders. Used to be the second most popular, most valuable organization in all of football, second only to the Dallas Cowboys here. In the 80s, Joe Gibbs, 3 different Super Bowl wins by 3 different quarterbacks, a very popular team there. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. So, again, and of course, Friday, I'll have Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez. So the next 3 days, I'll have guests. And, of course, next Tuesday, 30 minutes past the hour, we'll talk more. We'll be a week into the coaching search of the Tennessee Titans' new coach here. I'll have Rich Ferris from the Titans flagship radio station, 104.5 The Zone. So very busy time of year, folks. We got the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. Never a dull moment, even though it's really cold outside in January. It's not as miserable as you think. A lot of stuff cooking on the inside here in the NFL and wide world of sports in the month of January. If you folks like the show, please share the show. I will be back on tomorrow, same time, same place, here on Sports Scope.